So the WNBA trade deadline is coming up this Sunday, and there have been some rumors that have escalated as we have gotten closer and closer to the deadline. I want to start off with Kelsey Plum. Kelsey Plum is probably on the move, as there have been rumors that have indicated that she will probably not re-sign with the Sparks this offseason. And overall, this has just been awful asset management from the Sparks, which is why their GM got fired. Of course, the Kelsey Plum trade, they got KP, they moved off of the pick that became Dominique Malonga. The pick that became Awafam was traded for the pick that became Rickea Jackson, and then they moved off of Rickea Jackson for Ariel Atkins. And Ariel Atkins has been an alright player for the Sparks, but right now she is a role player, and she has not moved the needle for the Sparks in their ventures to be a win-now team. Last season, they didn't make the playoffs. This season, they're probably not going to make the playoffs, or right now at least are on the outside looking in. So this has just not been an eventful past 2 seasons for the Sparks in terms of either being a win-now team or in terms of a rebuild, as especially so, probably the market value for KP isn't even that crazy because the Sparks have just lost all their leverage. They lost all their leverage. We know that this is kind of an unserious organization, and we know that they have mismanaged all their assets, which is why the GM was fired. And so, in terms of value that you might get back for Kelsey Plum for the Sparks, it probably won't be that crazy, which is unfortunate for the Sparks, but I mean, it's great for other teams because they don't have to gut their roster or future for the addition of Kelsey Plum in all likelihood. Probably. And so teams that might be interested, a lot of people have floated out the Golden State Valkyries, which I would be a fan of. The Valkyries, I know they are an elite, they're an all-time defense that many people have said. However, they do lack a true number one, and I understand the Gabby Williams offensive improvement, the Chechi and Janelle Salon tough shot making, the Veronica Burton passing playmaking. It's all fine and dandy. Their offense is still definitely just missing one other piece, a strong firepower that can help when that offense just fizzles out, just looks a bit stagnant, or they just need a bit more creation juice. And I think Kelsey Plum would be a great addition for that department. Some of the concerns with that are that Kelsey Plum is going to tank their defense, and Kelsey Plum is for sure one of the worst defenders in the association. However, you have the infrastructure, I feel like, because assuming, I don't know who you'd move off of in order to get Kelsey Plum onto the Valkyries, but Nakase is a great coach. I definitely think you keep VB and Gabby Williams. You keep those two, I think the defense is still going to be fine, especially if I doubt the Sparks would want back Kia Stokes. So you'd still keep Gabby Williams, Veronica Burton, Kia Stokes. I'm not sure if you keep Kayla Thornton. I'm not sure because money matching and whatnot. Still, though, overall, I feel like you have the defensive infrastructure needed that you can, if any team can hide Kelsey Plum on defense, I think it would be the Golden State Valkyries. And there's still going to be questions about the offense come playoff time if they don't make some sort of move, because right now they are a contender, but I think there are also certain teams in the playoffs that are just going to not be afraid of what the Valkyries can bring because they're going to trust that their offensive players can get them over the hump against even an elite all-time defense that the Valkyries bring. And then they won't be able to generate enough points, enough offense to keep them in games. And I think Kelsey Plum would help that out expeditiously. I've also seen some people throw out maybe the Washington Mystics could go after her. And I'm not sure about that just because the Washington Mystics, right now, they're still in like a solid phase. I mean, they're a playoff team right now. They're the 8th seed. And so getting her on the team, I guess my only concern is that it speeds up a potential rebuild that the Washington Mystics are having. And the Washington Mystics are still in a great spot in their rebuild because they have the pick for the Chicago Sky. So even though they're going to be a playoff team this season, they're still going to get a great pick out of this draft. So in addition of Kelsey Plum and then a draft pick from next season is going to speed up the timeline. Sonia Citron is already an awesome player, and as is Kiki, and Shakira is looking definitely better. My concern for the Mystics is that it speeds up a timeline and it forces Sony, Shakira, Kiki, whoever the next pick that they get in the draft, it speeds up the timeline and it forces like, hey, I know y'all were like the 8th seed, y'all were the fun 8th seed, but now it's time to win. And that's like a very dangerous game to play, I feel like, in terms of like the development and not making sure that you get everything out of the young pieces that you have on the squad. Still though, the Mystics do need a point guard, and I don't know who they might get in the draft, and if the person that they get in next year's draft would be a person that just comes out the gate is just really good, so naturally the timeline would just be sped up with getting that draft pick. Either way, I mean, it is an option. It's an option. I'm not sure if I love it or I'd go with it. I can see the vision though. I can see the vision with that. I'm not too sure about other teams, and I guess like this also goes back to the asking price because the Sparks just have no leverage. I don't know what teams are asking for her. I don't know what market value is for her. The Sparks are just not in a good position in terms of getting assets back. So it's rough for them, for sure. Another report is Nafisa Collier, quote unquote, has to be considered a trade option due to her contract status after being cored. I'm not sure about that. I just don't think. So I think the big thing like that this stems from is like Fee signed a 1 year after this. She signed a 1 year this off season, and so this is like, is she going to re-sign to the team after all this? And one of the big things was in the off season, she had an interview that like she just wants to win. She just wants to win, and this is a great opportunity for her to win because now they drafted Olivia Miles, and so they have a great point guard to lead the team. They were amazing even without her, and now she could slot in back to the team, and they might be the favorites to win the whole thing. So I think if she just wants to win, I think that this is probably the best spot for her, unless like some other crazy super team emerges, which is not out of the realm of possibility for this league. Still though, I think B will probably see that like the Lynx are doing the best of their ability to win games, to win a championship, and the opportunity for the Lynx hasn't looked better in like a while or something. So I'm just always like, you have a top 3 player in the world that she could leave in the off season, but it's just like I feel like you have to run the risk of keeping that player, because how often will you get a top 3 player in the league to be on your team? You just have to run it and hope that they'll stay, assuming that they don't ask out, which B is not asking out. So I say hold on and hope that you have a great case to re-sign her or to make her stay in her upcoming free agency. Trade talks involving Alyssa Thomas have gone cold. Yeah, it's kind of not a surprise, unfortunately. Alyssa Thomas is now getting up there in age. Her contract is certainly not that team friendly, and she has had some regression already, especially in terms of as a defender. AT is still a good player, and this year is absolutely just a wash for the Phoenix Mercury. And so what is the value of a getting up there in age AT that lacks versatility, especially offensively in terms of being a scorer, because she doesn't have an outside shot, and then with not having an outside shot, she doesn't have the craziest size, so it's not like she's a center unless you run like crazy small ball lineups. So yeah, it's just a rough spot for the Phoenix Mercury. And then maybe if they do intend to continue to try to win games, it also says Alana Smith could be a target for the Mercury. Alana Smith had a really rough start to the season, but I think she has picked it back up, especially after taking off the mask. She's been a good defender. The defense hasn't been like DPOI level defense that earned her the co-DPOI last year. So I suppose you're hoping that she'll return to form in a trade to the Phoenix Mercury. I'm not sure. I ain't gonna say I'm not sure. I don't think an Alana Smith move would move the needle for the Mercury, because I think with the loss of Satu, their offense just lacks so much it's just not as dynamic. Dinosaur. It's not as dynamic, and the creation isn't uber crazy for the Mercury, and I don't think that moves the needle for them in terms of, okay, now we get a Atlanta Smith, and now we're a title contender. Like, that's not quite happening. And then the Wings, I don't know if the Wings really wanna. And then Atlanta Smith does have a very expensive contract, so that's like, do you want to get off of Atlanta Smith just to, remove that bad contract from you? But it's also like the value for Atlanta Smith has probably never been lower, so you want to get that value at least a little bit up. And so at this point, you probably just hang on to her and hold on to the fact that it's like, hey, she'll probably play better than. I mean, she is already playing better than what she did to start the season. So just hold on, and if you do want to move off of her, just wait until the value gets back up a bit. Betnijah Laney-Hamilton trade talks have heated up again. Of course, Betnijah Laney-Hamilton has had a very weird season. He's had very low minutes, sometimes DNPs, and it's also been a question of, is she healthy? Is she ready to go out there? Have the injuries zapped the same impact that she once could have? And so that's really just an interesting conundrum, or I'm not sure if it's a conundrum for the New York Liberty, but is Betnijah in their plans for their rotations, for lineups that they'll go to in terms of the playoffs for them? I think some of the other contenders around the league would be interested in the idea of a Betnijah Laney-Hamilton, just saying, hey, maybe the injuries aren't as bad and we can bring her back to form, or she hasn't had the opportunity and now she'll get them on this other team. Overall, though, it has been a very tough year for Betnijah. So yeah, I'm not sure, because of the whole, like, how much minutes she has played, I'm not sure what type of attention she would bring in terms of a trade package. I don't think it would probably be anything too crazy. So maybe, would it be worth it for the Liberty? I don't know. Truthfully. And then Anissa Morrow has also come up in the trade talks, and some of the other fan bases have been monitoring the status of some of the players on the Connecticut Sun, like an Olivia Nelson-Ododa, just because we see that even though the Connecticut Sun they're a rebuilding team, they're a bad team, certainly. But on bad teams, you will also still need to evaluate certain talent on the team and recognizing, hey, this player that has a high role on a bad team can come into our squad and be a really impactful player. And I do think Olivia Nelson-Ododa can be an impactful player on a playoff team, on a contending team. Anissa Morrow coming up in the trade talks. Anissa Morrow has had moments where she doesn't get like crazy amounts of PT. And so how much meat on the bone is there still in terms of being able to develop her and forming her into a player that reaches her max potential, especially considering the fact that Anissa Morrow is still 23 and gets like 22, 23 minutes per game and has only started 8 games on the season. So you still wonder how much is out there for Anissa Morrow in terms of her development. And so it's not surprising that teams would be on the lookout for a young player that maybe still has some untapped potential, but you wonder if you get more out of her if you bring her onto your squad. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about.